We're getting down to Biden versus Trump face-off. It's looking more and more like Biden is going to be the nominee. And I don't know what that means for the elections coming up, but I don't see Biden winning, but maybe polls are saying otherwise. Let's take a look at what is going on here. So the Trump-Biden battle continues to shape opinion on scenes of unrest. President Trump and presumptive Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden are fighting to shape public perception around the protests convulsing the country. A high-stakes battle that has come as the nation is gripped by largely peaceful protests mixed with disturbing scenes of chaos. Trump is taking a hardline approach on law and order, using military personnel to crack down on protesters outside of the White House and demanding that Democratic leadership in metro areas regain control from vandals and looters that have ransacked business and fought with police. The president's campaign is making the case that Biden is too weak and the country needs a strong leader. Meanwhile, Biden is casting Trump as lacking in empathy at a time when racial tensions are boiling over at the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died on a street in Minneapolis after a police officer restrained him by kneeling on. We know the story of George Floyd. Okay, so the former Vice President, Biden, is accusing Trump of inflaming racial tensions and says the president lacks the leadership skills to guide the country through this historic moment of civil unrest. Biden on Tuesday ventured out of his home state of Delaware for the first time since the coronavirus lockdown to denounce Trump from City Hall in Philadelphia, one of the dozens of cities racked by protests and violence. Okay, so basically the two arguments being made that they're saying are being made here is Trump is saying Biden is too weak and incapable of leading the country through the hard times, and Biden is saying Trump doesn't have enough empathy and doesn't care about people through the hard times. Trump is under fire from Democrats and Republicans after the incident with the church. Okay, so it's talking about where he supposedly ordered a bunch of gas and police forces to remove the protesters from the area so he could get a photo op. We know he went in there and took a picture with the church. The only thing we know is that the church was on fire and being burned down, and that Trump went in there and took a photo with the Bible in front of the church. Whether it was to be a photo op to boost himself up and be egotistical, or whether he was trying to send a statement and show America that the church is still standing and, this kind of stuff can't beat out Christianity and the Bible. I don't know. He didn't state his motivation behind it as far as I know. But regardless of what his motivation is behind it, the way it is being framed by media sources is that he abused a bunch of innocent protesters for a photo op. Again, the narrative of Trump lacks empathy. He doesn't care about people. That's what they're pushing here. Outside of Washington, there's deep concern about the violent protests that have ravaged deep blue metro areas from New York to Los Angeles, as scores of local reports emerge about police being attacked and businesses being looted by rioters. And Biden's allies are warning that he must clearly make the case for law and order. Okay, so it's complicated because they're saying that Biden needs to find this fine line to walk where he, is empathetic and says that protests are good and condemns riots. Well, Trump has done the exact same thing and said that the protests are good and need to happen. He condemned the death of George Floyd. He said that was wrong. The president also said that people's voice needs to be heard and protests are good. Again, I'm paraphrasing. And he also condemned riots, and they're telling Joe Biden to do the same thing. So I don't get what the issue is here. If Biden does that, then both candidates will be doing what they want here. So, like I said, there's this large push to make Trump look like an unempathetic bad guy. And I could totally see how he comes across that way, especially with the clips they pull and things like that. But you got to look at what he's done. Like I said, he condemned what happened, said that people's voice need to be heard, and condemned riots at the same time. I don't see any evidence of him, especially when people are calling him racist, I don't see any evidence of that, and no one's been able to provide me with anything like that. So until that happens, I'm not going to say that any of those things about him are true. With regards to Biden, though, them saying he looks weak, well, that probably comes from he just gets lost in what he's saying, and he's going to get eaten alive in a debate. But we move on, and they talk about how Biden's been gaining in the polls in key battleground states, and it shows that, more people are looking like they're going to be willing to vote for Biden. And when I was going through this, I've been seeing a lot of things saying, Biden's starting to take the lead, and it looks like he might have it here. I remember hearing the same things about Hillary Clinton. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I am out of touch and don't get what people really want. But I just picture Joe Biden and Donald Trump on stage in a debate. I mean, I don't even know how Biden beat out any of the other Democrats to gain the nomination. It's insane. Those debates were awful watching him. Now, and going up against someone like Trump, who's not going to hold back and is on fire with things, it's not going to look pretty. I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to get out of it or something. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but we'll see how it goes. So while Biden might be leading in some of the new polls coming out for some of the battleground states and stuff, when you get down to like specific issues such as the economy, we look at things like this article here, that Biden is losing the economic argument to Trump as U.S. begins to reopen. So President Donald Trump is trusted more than the Democratic nominee Joe Biden to handle the economy, polls show. Even with more than 40 million Americans filing jobless claims and growth stalled due to the coronavirus pandemic. Some Biden supporters fear that vulnerability could intensify if Trump becomes the face of an economic recovery as the country reopens after shutdowns, giving the Republican president's re-election prospects a boost when he needs it most. Biden is expected to release a large-scale recovery plan in coming weeks. Okay, yeah. So, it just goes on to talk about what Biden's going to do. But Americans were split between who has a better plan for national recovery. 37 favored Biden, while 35 favored Trump. But when you look at the economy, the former vice president has an edge on Trump in the overall support ahead of the November 3rd election. Polling this week showed Trump with a 42% to 34% lead over Biden in terms of which candidate was trusted more on the economy. So, are people going to, vote with their wallets? Are people going to gravitate more towards Trump because they think he's going to be able to bring us back better than Biden would? Because that's what people are going to be looking at. We're going into the election with a couple big things right now. We have a bunch of people who've lost their jobs or, the economy being shut down. And then we have all these riots and everything going on. And we're not even to the end of it yet. I mean, you've got till November, right? I mean, something else is bound to happen. It seems like it's one thing after the other right now. And this whole thing is starting to feel sort of like, I don't know, one of these Marvel movie franchises. Look at these years we've had of Trump's presidency. It's like it's almost, instead of it being a Democratic candidate against Trump, it's almost Trump versus different media groups, because they're the ones putting out all the stuff that counters him. If anyone goes to actually debate him and you look at actual policies that come out, he's going to beat them every time. So you have to spin the crap out of things in order to actually attack him. And like the reason I said it's almost like the Marvel franchise is like you get this, instead of a movie, you get like a circumstance that the media pins on Trump and attacks him hardcore on, and then it fails, and then so they'll do another movie, and then another movie, and it's like it's all going to culminate in this big final in-game election here. And if he wins, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to keep this up for another 4 years? Remember what they've done so far. They go on Russia collusion, they go impeachment, they go after him on every single thing he does, they attack him. They say it's racist. They say he doesn't care about these people, or anything he could do one thing, they criticize it, then he does what they say, and then they criticize that as well. And it's been constant attacks for 4 years, to where these news organizations have turned into just commentary on what Trump does the whole time. Like, it's out of control. And every attempt to get rid of him and get him out of there has failed, and it has built up a big animosity towards these towards these news organizations. And when you then put someone up against him like Joe Biden, who can't even, talk without completely slipping up and forgetting what he's saying and saying the wrong things, and it's not looking, in my opinion, it doesn't look good for the Democrats at all. It looks like, I would think Trump would sweep based on everything, but like I said, you do have to account for this constant propaganda type material being thrown out against him. Because, and oh yeah, he does things I think are stupid, says things I think are stupid, but it's everything he says isn't stupid, and he actually had some really good policies in place. But criticize him when criticism is needed, applaud him when applause is needed. It doesn't have to be all one or the other. And you have people that are both. You have people that are sucking up to Trump every day for everything he does, and it's like, hold on, do you really like what he did, or do you just like it because he did it? And then people that criticize him every single day. But as it's showing now, like I said, the news is making it look like Biden's taking the lead, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know what other people are thinking and what they believe. I just don't see it happening. And I could be wrong. I hope I'm not. I'm not really looking forward to seeing Biden as a president, but we'll see. And even here, we have another article that talks about how the protests are a blow to Trump, but he may still beat Biden. While the anti-racism protests continue to spread in the U.S., polls for the 2020 presidential election has cast a shadow on President Donald Trump as he trails presumptive opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, in more than 40 national polls. Based on the results, some Chinese experts, yeah, you love Chinese experts, predict a defeat for Trump, but others noted that uncertainty still exists given Trump's base has a vigorous reaction to the worsening street violence, which may win him support later from people affected by the violence. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if people, like his response and like the way he handles, stopping these violent rioters, he might get more votes if he stands up for these. There's a lot of people out there whose businesses are being wrecked and destroyed and being hurt in these protests. And he said he stands with protesters, but he's against rioters. So, I mean, while they can spin it all they want, they might have some protesters, believe them and go against Trump. But if anyone sees his actual comments, they're probably going to lean towards him if they're a protester. And then anyone who's been hurt in this at all, if they like how he handles it, they're going to be voting for him. So Biden led in every single one of those 40 national polls in May. Biden's never been behind in any of these polls since January 2019. His average lead in the monthly average of polls has never dipped below 4 points and has usually been above it. The report said Biden is the first challenger to be ahead of the incumbent in every May poll since Jimmy Carter. The ongoing U.S. unrest plus Trump administration failure to cope with COVID-19 will certainly be a blow to Trump, but the impact of the fallout from these crises on the election will remain to be seen, experts noted. I love, how they just breeze over like it's a given fact that Trump's administration failure to cope with COVID-19 epidemic. I don't think anyone handled the COVID-19 epidemic well. And if anything, you've got Biden on the wrong side of it. So if you're going to criticize Trump's handling of the COVID-19 epidemic, it would have to be in a way that, you said that the shutdowns were actually too long. But Biden's on the side that the shutdowns weren't long enough and weren't soon enough, and We should have shut down more and longer. So, but in reality, we needed to open back up sooner, and it's not as severe as people were saying. So Biden would have to jump to the other side of Trump on that for that argument, and say that no, Trump had us shut down too long, we need to reopen. And I don't see him doing that. It's not the narrative they're trying to push. They want things to be shut down, so it does come out worse for Trump in the end. So I don't know how that works at all. The damage caused by rioters to the buildings and businessmen has interrupted the country's economic resumption plan, and the great economic loss from the coronavirus outbreak would worsen if the unrest continues, which is bad news for Trump, because a thriving economy has always been his political asset. Assistant research fellow at the Institute of American Studies of China Institutes of Contemporary. Okay. So, to me, this again is an argument for Trump. So, with the economy before, crap hit the fan, it was doing fantastic. It was great. And then all this stuff hit, the pandemic, the riots, and everything, and it tanks. Who are you going to want to pick it back up from the bottom? Are you going to want a guy who was involved in an administration in which the economy was not as good and hope he can bring it back up from the bottom? No. You're going to want someone who works, twice as hard on the economy and gets it back up to where you need someone who's able to lift it up way out of the ditch it's fallen into. And if you're going off track record, that's going to be Trump and not Biden. So I can see why economically people are looking to vote for Trump. While Trump repeatedly called for harsh measures against protesters, Biden's reaction is the opposite. After criticizing Trump for stoking racism, he visited a protest site on Monday in Delaware and talked to the protesters there. He promised on social media that he would lead the conversation in confrontation and listen to people's appeals if he wins. Minority voters were not in Trump's camp in the 2016 election, nor would they be this time, especially when his opponent has a special place in the black community after serving as the VP of the first black president in the United States, expert noticed. That sounds a little racist. You're saying that, are you trying to say that black voters are only going to vote for someone because he was associated with the first black president? Are you trying to say that they can't make an educated decision based on how things are going? I don't like the way that's phrased at all. I don't think that's, I wouldn't say it's intended to be racist, but that's not phrased in a good way whatsoever, because people are going to look at this and people have minds of their own, whether they are black, white, yellow, brown, freaking, you can paint yourself blue for all I care. You have a mind of your own, and you can determine who you want to be president based on what you've seen. It doesn't, why would you say that, oh my goodness. It doesn't have to be just because he was the vice president of the first black president. That is not a reason to vote for someone. A reason to vote for someone is, hey, what are you going to do for my community over here? We have this struggle and this struggle and this struggle and this problem. Are you doing anything to address it? Oh yeah, here's what I'm doing. Da 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 da. Is that going to come from Biden? Probably not. So Trump supporters have extremely high recognition of him. Trump supporters have an extremely high recognition of him, who may remain silent in the polls but are in favor of Trump deep inside, Jin told the Global Times. Some Americans may have sympathized with the death of the black man, but if the unrest intensifies and their personal interests are infected, they may lose patience, which could give Trump an opportunity as Trump advocates tougher actions against protesters. He is not advocating tougher actions against protesters. He is advocating tougher actions against rioters. They are two different things. Stop associating rioters and protesters. Protesters are people who are upset about a cause, go out in the street and make their voice heard and don't hurt anybody. Rioters or looters are people who go out there. Maybe some do start going out to make their voice heard, but then turn to violence or crime and hurt people or their businesses. Okay. But I'm glad you wanted to associate the two things. Following the rapid spread of Minnesota riots across the U.S., the risk of social disturbance will stimulate the silent majority of American voters to choose the leader who represents order and prompt white and Asian voters to resist the anti-racial discrimination movement. Asian people prefer an ordered and stable society. If Trump and his team dress up as a symbol of order and equal opportunity, demonstrating his decisiveness, boldness, and ability to act quickly to quell the riots could then turn into an advantage for Mr. Trump. Well, okay. So the election results remain uncertain as polls were generally wrong in the 2016 election, believing Hillary Clinton would definitely win, analysis said. Yeah, so like they said at the end there, we saw Hillary. I remember I went to bed thinking, I'm going to wake up, Hillary Clinton's going to be president. God help us these next 4 years. Because it was being sold as like she's got it in the bag. And it could be the same thing here with Joe Biden. We know that a lot of these places have a certain leaning with regards to news networks, and you're probably going to see a lot of, hey, Biden's got this. Biden's actually going to win. People love Biden. Here's what he's done, boosting him up. When you have 4 straight years of people attacking the sitting president, making up so much crap just to get him out of there, why would they stop now when they're almost on their last? This is their last chance, right? To get him out, to get rid of him and get someone new. They're pulling out every play in the book and everything they absolutely can. It's a combination of calling him racist and a combination of saying he has no empathy and he's terrible at his job and stokes violence. And you can bet every moment from now until the election, any bad thing that happens that gets any sort of notoriety nationwide, they're going to claim that somehow it's Trump's fault. Go ahead, keep track. I would put money on it that almost every bad thing that happens is going to somehow be associated with Trump, because that is what we have seen from them for 4 years now. It's or more plus. I mean, they were attacking him before it even started. So this is where I see this going. But like I said, I don't see Biden just being able to hold up to him. He gets stuck on his phrases. He can't finish thoughts. He says things that don't make any sense. He is just all over the place, and he doesn't have a great track record. I don't know. We'll see who his VP is and what other cards they're holding in their deck to throw out at the end. But as of right now, that's what we're seeing. Thank you guys for tuning in for that segment. We'll continue to keep you posted as things move along with this election, and I'm sure we're going to get some doozies of stories that come out with regards to Trump and Biden, and it's going to be a wild ride as we get to the election. But I thank you for watching, and if you liked this, please remember to go ahead and hit the like button. That helps me out. If you want to get notified when we come out with the videos, we do a few a day here when we can. Hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified, and you can go just watch them. But the biggest thing that helps is if you can just share this with other people, and then, give you guys things to talk about, and maybe we can work on discussions rather than just attacking one another and talk about things like this. We will see you guys in the next segment. Have a good one.